Works every time. Awesome. Hello everyone. I'll be doing the keynote by myself today because unfortunately Benny Mack turned out to be sick. He's kind of all right, he just needs a bit more sleep, and I guess he will be with us this night somehow. So, welcome to Nuremberg, to the Developer Days, where we want to meet, talk, and code. That will be the basic idea. And we prepared a couple of things, and we'll just start right away. So let's talk CMS7. CMS7 was the release that we did, or we kind of finalized also last year. And what we want to focus on in regards to the core team about what we said, what actually happened, and in the end, what people said about that. So, when we started the 7 release cycle, we, as the core team, said that we wanted to have, first off, the new backend look, right? Most of you might notice that. We wanted to focus more on editors, giving them more functionality to work in their daily jobs. We wanted to have a more reliable release cycle, because I don't know if you remember, but the previous release cycles were kind of spiky. And of course, we wanted to build a faster system, but that's standard stuff, right? We tell that all the time. And in the end, we wanted to modernize the entire code base, so TYPO3 becomes more of a competitive system again. The interesting thing is what really happened, so what we were able to achieve. And this is going to be a lot of stuff. So we got the new backend look, so we can check that off. That worked. We supplied a lot of help for editors. And it was very interesting because yesterday we had a really hard time preparing the keynote, coming up with all the stuff that we actually added because there's so much of it. So this is just a list of things that we added. So we got the image cropping in place, we got the form extension, which has been streamlined and it's more simple to use. We basically built the entire backend in a responsive manner, something that most of you maybe don't even notice as something new. We got the online media, which gave us great feedback from the outside. We got this razor-sharp icons in the backend anywhere else. And this is just a lot of stuff that I probably forgot, but time was short. So this is another thing where we say, okay, editorial aid for editors, so that worked. Interesting thing is that we measured an up to 4 times speed increase in the overall system, which is also, I think, pretty well. The interesting thing is, on a side note, is you might have realized that we're the only PHP project that has undergone a huge architectural change, and actually it runs faster than before. So if you take stuff like other content management systems that have had big releases in the past, or a huge online shop, everything just runs slower than before. We figured that would be stupid, so we made the system faster. Another thing is that we dropped a lot of old code and replaced it with better code that's more streamlined, which led to the speed increase, by the way. So everything that we have in performance increase right here has nothing to do with performance-related patches. It's just architectural changes, which shows that a better code base also performs better. So whenever someone in your company goes like, yeah, it's a dirty hack, but it's because of performance, he's lying. And one of the most remarkable things I think we achieved was we actually delivered everything on time. So we had a timetable going, I think, 14 months in advance with dedicated dates. So we didn't have like a month planned when we wanted to release, but we had a strict date attached to that. And we delivered on time every time except once, where we had a critical security issue and we figured, well, securing your websites might be more important than shipping on time. Hope you all bear with me. What was really interesting is what really happened in the end. So what we can see is from the feedback that we get is that editors simply love the system. They go like, well, it looks more fresh, it's faster to use, it works on different devices, editors love it. And what we've seen from that is that market share starts to pick up again. So it's more project requests coming in, basically resulting in more business for everybody of you. Another cool thing is that developers start to pick up the system again, because it used to be this whole, it's old, but old isn't necessarily bad. But it was uncool, so we thought, let's make the code cool again, so developers pick up the system again, and it works. Another important thing is that new people get attracted, again, because we had times when TYPO3 was at its peak, where the attraction of the system was very, very big. And we got some things up our sleeves to even increase that momentum even more. And another important and interesting thing is that basically the industry starts approaching us, building solutions together with huge players from the international digital industry, because they see the potential in TYPO3 and they kind of want to get on that train right now. So I think we're actually in pretty good shape. So Benny and I had thought a lot about the next slide, and I don't know if it's possible. I think we got like 250 people here, but do you think it's possible to get something done like the next slide, maybe? So what do you guys say in general? TYPO3.7, thumbs up, thumbs down? First off, thanks for that. It wouldn't be possible with the efforts of the core team and all the external contributors that really worked their asses off to make CMS7 such a great release, and wouldn't it be possible without you, so thanks a lot. Yeah, it's cool. We got time. There's a couple of people, though, that go like, this is not enough, right? You should do more things, do more drastic changes to the system, faster changes to the system. You should be revolutionary. Well, we figured that revolution is war, and you know, normally when you think about revolution, it never ends so well for a lot of people. We think that evolution is harmony, so we think evolution might make more sense. Steps, smaller steps, but consistent steps, simply to evolve the system even more, without, you know, like simply rushing over people or dragging them out, chopping their heads off and stuff. Okay, so let's talk about the stuff that we're doing today with version 8. We only got two minor topics for that. First off, I think most of you are interested in technology, so what's happening on the technology side of things within the 8 branch. And the other thing is visibility. This might not make sense to you right now. Trust me, it will later. Okay, so let's talk tech. One of the biggest changes we did right now is the DOCTRINE DBAL integration into TYPO3. We figured that this is by far the biggest change we've done to the TYPO3 code base ever. It's, I think we started out with 1,800 places where the old database abstraction layer was used, and we had to replace each and every one of them. And what might sound simple at first is something extremely difficult, because it's not about just simply rewriting a select query. You need to make sure that it returns the same stuff as before. And also we figured that while we were at it, why not make it simpler for developers to use that API? So who's ever had problems selecting the right stuff based on the current language or workspace? There's helper methods for that. Most of the stuff is enabled by default. Who's ever put like deleted or hidden records on a live machine and had to talk to his boss about this later? This is stuff you now need to actively disable if you want to show deleted records. So it's enabled by default. You just focus on what data you want to select, not based on which metadata you want to select these things. This is actually pretty decent. You could figure out that this is kind of breaking, but we came up with the core team to supply a solution to that problem, and this is why the development for DOCTRINE DBAL for CMS7 has started today. So this means you will be able in the near future to simply install an extension and have all of DOCTRINE's, I see some eyes getting bigger here. You can. You can basically take your DOCTRINE extension, put it into CMS7, and start writing code for extensions that supports both CMS7 and CMS8 already. So that's what we're aiming for right now. Another cool thing that kind of went under the radar for whatever reason is standalone fluid. Who has heard of? Okay, so I can skip the question, who has heard of that? In case you haven't, and my freaking thing works, fluid templating is now a library on GitHub that you can basically use in any PHP project. And we put this into works already. So we ported an application which is Forger, maybe some of you know that, to a Laravel front end, but still we're able to reuse the fluid templates in it. And the cool thing is that it starts to render like almost twice as fast with a much, much lower footprint memory-wise. So it's extremely lightweight. But what's really cool is the stuff you don't need, which means it's highly extensible. And this is the things where you figure out, oh, you know what would be really cool if I was able to do this and that. And you realize, hey, it can be done. So it's an extremely modular approach to templating, and it has a lot of benefits over other templating engines, let's say, take Twig, for example. Twig's solution to everything is, well, just write PHP. I know quite a lot of managers who don't want certain junior developers to write PHP, because it's just like, and the other cool thing about Fluid, and I think this is the greatest benefit, is that you can actually like test it on syntax errors and stuff before rolling it into production. So having your Fluid templates being checked for syntax and validity prior to rolling them out is one of the main benefits, and basically TYPO3 Fluid is the only thing that offers that on the market. Moving on next, maybe. That's better. It's cloud hosting. Cloud hosting is one of the most controversial topics I have learned, because most of the people in the room are just like, And I hope a lot of you attended the talk by Ryan this morning, because this shows the true potential of cloud hosting. And we're in an industry partnership with Microsoft and Platform.sh to make TYPO3 work on these platforms. The good thing is that the principles repeat, so it doesn't matter which cloud vendor you basically choose for. It's just the principles are the same. So we're aiming for making TYPO3 working on a read-only file system, for example, which is what most cloud providers do. So you build your entire application, deploy it onto a read-only file system, which makes the standard attacks on servers, you know, with defacement and stuff and backdoor injection, impossible. Yeah? If some guy tries to alter your files, well, good luck with that. It's read-only. No way to do that. Another point in cloud hosting is that we can move away from MySQL as a database onto more mature systems, say SQL Server, Oracle, DB2, these kind of things. And we're putting a lot of effort into making this work, even though you don't need it today. But trust me, in a couple of years, you will be happy that when the cloud waves truly hits continental Europe, that it's in place. Another cool thing is CKEDITOR. You might have noticed that we will drop HTML area, the wonderful rich text thing with a more modern code base. There's actually, this is not really a plan, but there's a patch pending already that you can just check out and apply it to the master branch, and you can see how CKEDITOR actually works. We figured that it uses a lot less memory on Chrome than HTML area did, which is a good thing for power editors and stuff. And integrating CKEDITOR into the TYPO3 core leads directly to the next important topic that we're working on, that's front-end editing. There's the guys from Pixelant. Yeah, you'll find him, it's cool. Who stood up to the task and said, okay, we want to do this, the core team doesn't have the manpower to do so within the time frame scheduled for the 8 branch. So Pixelant jumped in and said, okay, we got the developers, can you guide us, mentor us through the process? So we got front-end editing within TYPO3 version 8. And I think that deserves a huge applause, because it shows just how people can do things out of themselves. So it's not just the core team that survives that. Right, thanks. and now you have to deliver. So, cool. So, let's talk visibility for a moment. Visibility is basically how the system is, like seen from the outside world. And I think we should start with Slack. We think that Slack brought a huge number of positive things to the TYPO3 community, which was like that it decreased support times by a magnitude. So in the CMS channel or in extension channels, you can see people just going on Slack, asking a question, and go home with a solution 5 minutes later. Also, Slack basically increased communication because it was never so easy to get in touch with huge parts of the core team. Just jump into the channel, come up with an idea, let's discuss things. That's awesome. But Slack has one major drawback, and that it basically almost killed persistent support, which means everything you do in Slack is volatile, right? So that's a discussion, or somebody asks a question, gets a solution, 2 minutes later it's gone, it's scrolled off. And the persistent support, which is stuff you basically find on Google, almost dropped to 0. And this is something where I need the help of everybody in the room, and everybody who's available within TYPO3. Yesterday, the core team decided to move all support activity to Stack Overflow and Stack Overflow only. So this means that whenever you have a question or something, come in on Slack and post the link to your Stack Overflow question, please, so that we can answer the questions over there in order to help more people with that. One minor remark, please tag your question with TYPO3, not TYPO3-6.2 or TYPO3- or fluid templating or whatever. Just use the TYPO3 tag and then use additional tags that makes it easier. And this would be pretty helpful for everybody if we would just join in and constantly remind each other to put persistent questions onto Stack Overflow. This doesn't mean we will be shutting down Slack, don't get me wrong. Slack is awesome for short-term discussion, exchanging ideas, that's cool, but let's move support to Stack Overflow to make TYPO3 even more visible. Another topic which is kind of related is that we will, we will encourage, or want to encourage each and everybody of you to move your extension development to GitHub. We will, or alike, but GitHub is basically, it's the biggest player in the industry anyways. So what we want to achieve is that we have less load on TYPO3's infrastructure, and a lot of people already moved to GitHub anyways, and it works perfect for projects of a size of an extension. And it would help that we wouldn't have to maintain our own infrastructure right now, because it's a lot of machines running just to support issue tracking for an extension that gets 2 issues a decade. So we also want to integrate the TYPO3 TER more deeply with GitHub and supply best practices for that. And this also means, for example, if you do a GitHub project, register it into TER, we can then automatically create a channel on Slack, for example, and support supply tags for Stack Overflow. So all these things kind of grab in each other to make it more consistent, and we don't get such a divided base of where to find stuff. So if you're doing extension development, please move to GitHub. If you have problems with that, issues, or you just think, how can it be done, I'm unsure how to deal with things, we're here, just ask us, or on Stack Overflow, so we can make these things happen. So I got one tiny thing for you. That's one of the services of TYPO3 Inc. that has been founded. Who has problems finding proper colleagues? Proper colleagues are more people. So nobody is flooded with work and needs more developers? Ah, see? So we came up with something with a pretty decent idea, which we called Send Your Junior. And the entire idea is that what you can do is that you can send your new colleague to our office for a couple of months, Yes, and we're serious about the month stuff. Where they can learn structure and discipline. Code-wise, okay, code-wise. And what you will be able to do, you'll be able to opt into 3 different categories. So you can either say, I want to learn how to work with the TYPO3 core in general, or I want to be part of the internal projects that we do within TYPO3 Inc., or you can work within the support team, so you learn to talk to people. What's really interesting is we're offering this for free, so you can simply sign up. We've got a couple of spaces left. So if you think that you could need like a kickstart or something, go approach your boss, ask him if that's a possibility. I recommend highly, though, that you do coding night first and then decide. Because coding night can be really tough, and you're signing up for months of that. So this is something to consider in that point. All right. Now we talked enough about us and what we did. So the important stuff for us is what can you people do in order to make TYPO3 even more successful than it already is. So our main wishes for everybody in the community is use CMS8 as of today. By the way, in case you didn't know, we released 2 days ago, the 8.3 version. Very important, just give us feedback. The better qualified, the better, but still, just give feedback. Stuff you see, just tell us, make good tickets that would help the team a lot. Come in contact with us, inspire ideas, come up with something yourself that you want to implement, just discuss things. Because it's not, if you have a great idea of a feature you want to see in the core, just go do it. We got mentors, more than enough mentors in the core team, which you can approach, they will guide you through the process, and you can have your own special feature in the core if it makes sense for the entire product. Then still, we're not short on tasks. There's enough stuff to do, and simply join the team. Questions? Oh, come on. Seriously?
What will happen with the git.typo3.org? Do we will shut down the Git repository?
Why would we do that?
You installed build your extensions on GitHub.
Yes.
So do we need Git repository for TYPO3?
Well, the thing is, I can ask you to do this. I cannot force you to. Well, I could try. But I would more likely try to convince you to do so. No, seriously. The thing is that the TYPO3 project supplied that infrastructure. First of all, did everybody get the question? Yes, no, that's awesome. A single no is enough for me. So Stefan asked, will we shut down git.typo3.org? Well, we'd love to, and we will, when the last extension is gone from that place. So no extension is left behind. All we want to do is try and encourage you to use that so we can reduce the load on our own systems. And if we say we want to reduce the load on the server team, that sounds pretty egoistic. But if you think about it, it's more about fragmentation. So say you're a new developer, and there were a lot of people here that were on the developer days for the first time. And they will ask you, where do I put my extension? So 5 people will give 10 answers, and they're all totally valid. And I think we should try to reduce the amount of fragmentation and focus more on best practices, so you can have like a more streamlined ecosystem that everybody gets. Does that answer the question? Awesome. Any more questions, or are you all just perfect?
Would you encourage other extension authors to put their extension on packages?
I don't have an answer for that. Did everybody get the question? Perfect. I'll just do it. You see, I'm stalling here. Now, the question was, do we encourage everybody to put their extensions on packages? Yes and no. From a security point of view, yes. because if you do your own stuff, people could hijack your extension keys on packages and do weird stuff with that. But we're still waiting on an answer of Jordi, who is hosting packages, because every package you register at his location results in effective cost immediately. So all I can do is encourage everybody to buy a torrent proxy license, not because you need it, just you have it lying around, because that basically helps Jordi get along. That would be perfect. So we don't have an answer on that yet, although it's on our agenda to supply a best practice for that. Because the current problem is that we see with fragmentation is that we have packages and composer TYPO3 org. And nobody knows which one to pick, and other people just go like, okay, I don't want to wait this, I think it's an hour until data is imported into composer TYPO3 org. So I want to have my stuff on packages right away so I can push fixes faster. And we already have fragmentation, and this is a bad thing. So stay tuned, we will come up with a solution once Jordi has, I think he's on vacation right now. More questions? Perfect. Yes. Yes. So the question was, when will we relaunch TYPO3.org? Yeah. I thought about starting with what's wrong with it. Okay, but we all know what's wrong with it. No, the thing is that we had a couple of teams trying to do the relaunch, and right now TYPO3.org is incredibly complex because there's a lot of tiny services and vital parts of that, and there's a lot of like tightly coupled applications. So just imagine you would start your PHP class with a class constructor and just jump 18 arguments in that. That's how TYPO3 kind of is. TYPO3.org. It sure used to be. No, but seriously. So what we're currently doing is that we're trying to take out more and more simple parts of that. So for example, the single sign-on will be replaced with an LDAP-based solution. So you could, if you would love to, you could simply use the backend authentication against TYPO3.org. And everybody from the core team gains instant admin access to your installation. But yeah, all these tiny things that we're constantly pulling out of that, just in order to make the relaunch manageable. And we've relaunched TYPO3.com 2 days ago, which also will take over content from TYPO3.org to make it, you know, like more manageable. It's on our to-do list, and help is highly appreciated. More questions? Perfect. So I say, everybody start your engines, enjoy the developer days. Great, you're all here. Perfect.